Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me today is our recruiting consigliere guru. I called you an expert on the Twitters, Christian. You're going to be here to talk about Notre Dame recruiting. I was thinking after our show on Tuesday, we should talk recruiting because Champ Mons is coming up as a commitment, and then Aiden O'Neill set his commitment date. And then David Faleronu set his commitment date. And I said, not only do we have to talk recruiting, we got to get Christian on. Jamie's a late scratch. He's in the pit. He's getting worked on. His back is locking up. So he's in the pit right now. His wife's working on his back. He's on his stomach all day. She's rubbing it out. So don't clip that. But he's not on the show today. So it's just going to be Christian. It's going to be a great show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ and all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, from All-Americans to All-Pros and associates to CEOs. You're in great hands with ESQ's custom clothing. Whether you're looking for the perfect fitting suit, a standout sport coat, or a perfect tuxedo for wedding galas, ESQ's master tailors blend traditional hand stitching in each garment with Italy and England's best fabrics. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. So it is the off season, and spring ball is winding down. But this is the time of year when things ramp up for you, Christian. You're working the phones. You're talking to people. Every message you send to the group chat is like, hey, I just talked to X. I just talked to this guy. Constantly working. Can't be even available for this. Christian, how you been? How are things looking? Just overall, how are things looking for Notre Dame on the recruiting front? I think things seem to be really ticking up right now.
I think everyone can see that things are looking good right now. They're on an upswing. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me.
For sure.
Second of all, you mentioned the pit a couple times. Do you watch the pit?
No, that's what they call it. That Notre Dame when the players are.
Okay. Well,
I know what the pit is. Right? I know what the pit is.
You give me some Dr. Robbie vibes now that I think about it. Some Noah Wiley vibes. Like, I'm serious. I'm like, that's who Greg reminds me of. Freaking Dr. Robbie from the pit.
All right, that sounds good. I'll take it. No, the pit is when the players get hurt, they go on the side and they work, on the bike or whatever.
Yeah.
Do their,
I'm sure that's what Jamie's doing right now.
Yeah, that's what Jamie's doing. So,
but obviously exciting time. Notre Dame recruiting right now. You get like a lot of things. Like you mentioned, all these announcements coming up, one after another. I always like to say, like, recruiting is like momentum changes like in a second, right? Like anytime you go a couple of months without a commit, people are like, oh my God, are we stalled? They're just cycles of when these things happen. And when they happen, boom, 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 boom. And then there'll be a lull and then it'll come again. So things can and will change, like what I always say, but especially the momentum. And right now it seems like we're about to enter one of those upswings.
Yeah. Nothing gets people more fired up about a quarterback joining the class. And wonderful Champ Mons the fourth is going to be announcing his commitment. I believe it's tomorrow on the Pat McAfee show. That's new. That's a fun one. Yeah. Should Notre Dame get that one? So I think, a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, Marcus Lupati was Notre Dame's target there, and it looked like
Camden Lupati.
Camden Lupati, excuse me. Mm-hmm. I'm getting recruits' names mixed up. Camden Lupati was going to be Notre Dame's going to be the commitment for Notre Dame at the quarterback position. That didn't happen kind of at the last minute. He chose Michigan. And I think at the time it was, Champ Mons was trending towards Ohio State. So, and obviously that's kind of has flipped. So how did that come about? And we'll talk about the player that Notre Dame's getting and wonderful Champ Mons should he come.
I think a lot of people sometimes will jump the gun on where a kid's leaning after a visit, right? And it's understandable, but like until a kid visits all the schools for real, you
Yeah.
can't really get a good picture. If a kid comes back from a visit and says, I'm not going anywhere else, I'm going to make an announcement in a week. Yeah, that's one thing. But, if a kid goes to Ohio State and he's going to like it, like Ohio State recruits at a big time level, so you go there, you say you really like it, maybe you're a leader, but if you have other visits left on your board, including one to Notre Dame, like people shouldn't get too far ahead of themselves. I think that's kind of what happened with the Ohio State thing.
Yeah.
People around Champ had always told me, and I talked to him, he strikes me as a Notre Dame kid. I always thought they would have a good chance at it. I will be the first to give Gino Guidugli a lot of credit. I know a lot of people have been critical about, how patient he's been. I haven't been critical. I found it curious, especially last cycle when they, which is essentially the same cycle when I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time around with 27, they waited a long time to offer anybody. They offered 2 kids, Peyton Houston and Teddy Gerard, and within a month you got Teddy, right? So that proved very valuable. Now this time he took his time again, only offered 3 guys, Lapati, Mons, and Davin Davidson. And now it's almost like, I don't know, 9 months after people thought you were being too slow, and to really be able to narrow in your focus, say, these are the guys that we want, and to get essentially 2 of them in this cycle is super impressive. And I think it works on a lot of levels. It works on, you're really, really evaluating these guys, right? I'm close with some quarterbacks, people connected to some of the other quarterbacks that were frustrated, but it doesn't matter. He really evaluated very closely the guys he wanted, and those kids really, really appreciate that. I know Teddy Gerard, that was one of the things that separated Teddy Gerard or Notre Dame from a lot of the other schools with Teddy Gerard. They're looking around going, they offered 15, 20 quarterbacks. Where does Teddy fit in? Notre Dame offered 2. And so, kudos to Coach Guidugli for that approach.
He definitely has a way, and it's working. As long as it works, I guess it doesn't matter. It leads to a lot of questions that we get, right, and a lot of consternation there. And that's totally fine if you land your guys. This is I'm going to throw up some film here. He's a reclassification, right? So he started as a freshman, got hurt last year, and didn't play. I think he got hurt in the first game, and I think he came back for the playoffs, but didn't play that much. You think there's a concern there where it's like, man, this next season is really important from you got to get some real game reps kind of situation? Like it's the total opposite of someone like Noah Grubbs, who started every year as a freshman and was a mainline starter at his high school. All the 4 years he was there, he's not going to get a ton of work. Do you sense that that's any sort of, I don't want to say concern or anything, it's just like a factor in this, that maybe he's going to take a little bit more time? And obviously it works out because, you've got like Teddy Gerard and Noah Grubbs, who are incoming freshmen from last year. And they're also pushing for the 5 for 5 that's going on in college football right now. So he's got a lot of time. But is there anything to the fact that this is a reclassified player, and he's going to, he's not going to have a ton of snaps, even if he played all year this year?
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? I remember doing a story when Teddy decided to reclass on why is this good for Teddy? And that was one of the things that came back was he's played so much high school football because he played as a freshman, he played as a sophomore, he played as a junior. So he had already accumulated that much game stuff. And I talked to people who did research on it, comparing, all right, who are the top quarterbacks in the NFL and how many high school games did they play in their career? And Teddy was above a lot of those guys. So this is the inverse of that. So if that's a positive for Teddy, I don't think it'd be fair to ignore it when it comes to Champ Mons. There's not really a lot of substitution for real games reps, especially at that position.
Yeah.
So I think that is fair, but hopefully he gets plenty of reps this season. And, obviously high school football and college football is very different. So the coaches in South Bend will get him up to speed. But, I do think it's fair. Like I said, game reps, you can't, replicate those.
I think the fact that, it's mitigated by Gerard and Grubbs being on campus. He has time, I love his talent. I mean, he's got a live arm. He rushed for 500 yards as a freshman, right? So that shows a little bit. There was a clip there where he ran for about 50-yard touchdown. I don't need a guy to be Riley Leonard. I don't need that. But like the fact that I mean, CJ Carr he's way more mobile than CJ Carr, and
Yes.
CJ Carr is effective with his legs. Like there's mobility there that defenses have to worry about. Love Mons' talent. I think he's a great prospect. I great addition to the class. I think he's a really, really good football player.
Big dude. Like in person, I'm told like his presence is like overwhelming. Huge arm and accurate with those deep balls too. And as far as his athleticism, there's people in Florida that told me that he could play. He's athletic enough to play another position at the college level. So that's I don't break these guys down, but seems like kind of like the size, the athleticism, and the arm, kind of like maybe Cam Newton-ish with those traits.
Oh,
is Cam Newton big?
He's a big boy. Listen,
he's big. He's got a big arm.
I will say this: he could grow. Right, that's the other part. Like when you get guys like early commitments like this, he could grow and he could get a little bit bigger. I mean, if you're talking like a 6'3", 6'4" guy, 6'5" guy, I think it's kind of like a different evaluation as a prospect. Right. And it won't only get better. So that's really good. Aiden O'Neal, defensive end, Don Bosco Prep. He announced it. He's announcing his commitment. I think it's also tomorrow. It's earlier, right? I think that's.
He's at.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not tomorrow. What day is today? Thursday.
Today's Thursday.
It is
O'Neal's going tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m. So I think it was kind of a shock announcement in the fact that it happened so soon. How did that kind of matriculate? How did his recruitment kind of develop to the point where people feel like Notre Dame might be favored to land him?
So he was a kid that always told me that he wants to know soon, especially when Notre Dame entered the picture. He's like, I want to take these rounds of visits. And he always said he'd potentially decide before official visits. So while he didn't really – sometimes they say that and then they don't, keep pumping it. It kind of gets lost.
Yeah.
It wasn't a shock, right? So before Notre Dame offered him, people close to him are like, that would be a game changer for him. Notre Dame offers him. Same people close to him are like, he fits Notre Dame great. Love the visit. He just really, really always seemed like a real fit at Notre Dame to me. There was some Kentucky buzz earlier in the week. I do think that was real. But things have changed since. Notre Dame has all the buzz now. I think that's real. One thing I'll say about Aiden, so I went out Bergen Catholic Don Bosco game back in September at the Bosco, in absolutely insane high school football atmosphere. I drove onto campus it's a small campus. I drove on campus at about 1:30 to meet with the head coach who had invited me to campus, and the security guard just about, was ready to arrest me for having the audacity to have a vehicle on campus that, the day of that game. That whole campus was shut down. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm here to meet coach. They go, you got 5 minutes to go in there and meet with coach, and then you got to get the hell out of here. So, but Aiden just jumped out to me. Everyone at the game was like, hey, Notre Dame should be on this kid. They should be recruiting this kid. Huge, just huge. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's too big. And then I watched him play and I'm like, oh, wow, he can move too. I was surprised at the time Notre Dame wasn't on him. Eventually they did with the addition of Coach Partridge. And things have moved really, really fast in Notre Dame's direction.
I feel like he's got that, he could be, I think he could be a 3. I think he could slide inside. Maybe not all the time. Like he's like souped up Josh Burnham to me. He is like he's like bigger. I think he's probably more athletic than him. And because he's bigger, I feel like he could make that move inside. I think he could also play off the edge too. I have no idea what Notre Dame wants him to do. I assume they want him to play defensive end because he's got some really good tape there. Like you said, he's just a monster. Like he's just a physical. I don't like to say freak, but he's like a problem, right? He's very long. He's got very long arms. He's built almost like Eli Raridan was as a senior in college, and that's kind of where he's built. I mean, this would be a huge pickup, right? Like this would be great for Notre Dame, and also to get back into Don Bosco Prep. Like I think that would be like a really good win for them as well, because you want to keep that pipeline going. What does it mean though?
Very friendly. Don Bosco Prep will be very friendly to Notre Dame. I think this is one example of.
Yeah.
And when I say that, right, like high school coaches don't push kids to go anywhere.
Right.
They don't do that. They some of them may, but most of the kids that Notre Dame are recruiting, they don't do that. It's just the idea of like, hey, this is something like guidance wise, this is something you should really look at. When you're a school and you're a prospect and you got 50 schools coming at you, there's no way for you to actually really give all of them the attention maybe they deserve. So when you have people, and it's not just the coach, people in the program, whether it's alum, teachers, administrators, trainers that are around it, when they say, hey, that's a place you need to take seriously and look at, that's what helps get Notre Dame in the door.
Right. Like it keeps you in that top 5 or top 4 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like when that offer comes in, it's like, okay, like you're looking at them. Like you have to look at them. You don't have to go there, but you have to take that seriously. And that may not be the case for, I don't know, Auburn. I'll just throw them out there just as an example. So, great to keep that pipeline going. What do you think that means for the rest of the defensive end class? Right. So you've got Marcus Fakatu. You got Marcus Fakatu. He's someone they're looking at. Jackson Vaughn just reclassified to 2027. He's someone they're looking at. And I know there's a bunch of other prospects as well. What do you think this means for kind of the dominoes that could start falling at defensive end for Notre Dame?
Well, obviously one spot gone means that there's one spot less for anyone else to get. How does that impact all the way up and down the board, and whose spot is that to lose? Hard to say. I'll tell you whose spot it isn't to lose, Jackson Vaughn or Marcus Fakatu's. Those guys are guys you can't say no to, right? So, and I think Notre Dame they're in a very good position with Jackson Vaughn, in my opinion, and they've improved their position with Fakatu. I know he's been the kid that's every time he goes to take a visit, that school becomes the number 1 school. Didn't really happen with Notre Dame this time, but they moved up to number 2. And him and Jackson Vaughn are very tight. So that could end up being the domino effect that I'd look at. But depending on what happens with those two, if both those guys come, then you're pretty much set at that position. But there's other guys down there that they really would like. It all become a numbers game. But we've said from the beginning of this cycle, maybe even I don't know, maybe before the cycle even really started, that this has an opportunity to be a truly elite level historic defensive line haul for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I think Aiden O'Neal's commitment helps the foundation of that potentially happening. Because if you're able to get an Aiden O'Neal, a Marcus Fakatu, a Jackson Vaughn, a Braden Parks, that right there, that's the core of like, wow, now we're really like putting something together. So we'll have to see what Aiden O'Neal does, and then we will, see how that impacts things moving forward.
I mean, so Notre Dame, I think it's fair to say Notre Dame is pushing for him, right? Aiden O'Neal.
Yes.
To me, does that then put him in their minds? Does that put him on the same plane as the other guys that you mentioned? Like you didn't mention Abraham Cisse, for example.
Cisse, I would keep him in there too as well. Yes. I would say he is on the same plane as those guys in terms of
in their mind. It's not regardless of our evaluation or anybody else's. Like in their mind, they're pushing for him.
Yes,
that's a spot they can't. Could they take 3 defensive ends?
I think it's gonna be hard to say no to some of those guys.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So, and I look at them in terms of playing. Like they might not say like this guy's number 1 and this guy's number 1. They're tied. I look at it in terms of like a bucket of a take or a no take. Right. So they know where they are with Abraham Cisse, Jackson Vaughn, Marcus Fakatu. Guys, they know where they are, and they know where they are with Aiden O'Neal. And so it's like, all right, are we going to take this kid? Notre Dame would take Aiden O'Neal. So in terms of he'd be in that same bucket with his other guys. I did forget about Cisse. I wouldn't eliminate him either.
Yeah.
And that just goes like, I was talking to a guy, it must have been a year ago or close to, like we were running down the idea of like what this defensive line haul could be. And I'm like, that's like really scary, like Georgia level stuff. And they're just kind of laughed about it. So if Notre Dame is able to start stacking these, that's kind of what I think puts this program into the next tier, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Braden Parks. who has kind of been linked to Notre Dame this whole time. Notre Dame does have to close there. And someone who is closing his recruitment, at least, from a commitment standpoint, is David Faleronu, who is a 5-star defensive tackle out of Chicago. I know he recently visited with his parents two times. It was a consecutive weekends, right?
Just about.
Yeah, he came, and then he didn't take another visit in between. He came to Notre Dame, didn't go anywhere else, came back to Notre Dame with his parents and
his mom, yep.
With his mom. And obviously that's a good sign. The fact that he announces, okay, I'm going to make a commitment on May 15th is also, I mean, you would say it's a good sign, right? Like if this was anybody else, we'd be like, well, that player is trending. So where are things with him? I mean, this is the kind of guy where it's like you said, the Georgia stuff. You get him and Braden Parks, then now it's like something beyond what we've seen very recently at the D-line position.
Absolutely. I was been told for years that recruiting D-line is the most difficult position to recruit at Notre Dame for whatever reason. Yeah, I mean, on top of, those 2 visits, I mean, Zibby's his head coach, right? Santucci's the president of the school, just has like Notre Dame, people around him.
Isn't there a Kerry Neal connection as well?
He works out with Kerry Neal too. Braden Parks does too.
Yeah.
So like, and like with Kerry told he was getting offers, and he was like I wrote this in a story. He was getting offers, and he just started kind of boasting about other offers he wants and mentioned Notre Dame. And Kerry was like, yo, the way you work right now, you ain't getting that offer. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that like kind of captured his attention with everything. So,
yeah.
But yeah, like he told me the only reason he came back last Friday was for his mom to see it.
Yeah.
And she really liked it. And that's kind of, a good indication of how serious he is about Notre Dame compared to other schools. I mean, he doesn't get as much attention for kind of the shuffling around as Fakatu does, but he's jumbled up his schools quite a bit, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, like this school, that school. And I've been telling people, like, I don't find that strange. I think what's odd is that they're saying it more, right? I think the fans and stuff are like, wow, he's indecisive. It's like, no, he's just, he's saying out loud what kids in the past and still most today kind of keep closer to the vest, and for good reason, I guess. But yeah, I think Notre Dame, they did a really good job that first visit to kind of pull back into the race, maybe back ahead, and then him coming back down with his mother so soon after, and then having a decision announcement so soon after that is certainly a strong indication.
Yeah. I mean, to me, just listening to you and see it described, he visits Notre Dame. Oh, I got to come back right away and bring my mom because she has to see it too. And then he sets a commitment date.
This day and age, I don't think it's as clear cut as it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a lot of other factors that go into a lot of these recruitments beyond just a visit, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times these schools, they visit all the schools. Now they say, all right, now let's talk, dollars and cents sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that can be like, all right, now we know for sure, like, I'm comfortable with this school. I'm comfortable with that school. Wow, this school just blew me away, right? Like, just be honest. And if you're that school, you're not just throwing out offers. I'm talking NIL offers now and saying, yeah, just take it or leave it. It's there whenever you want. If I was doing it, I'd be like, hey, here's the offer today, and it's good as long as you're ready to make an announcement within 2 weeks, So it's not like in the past where it's like, hey, I went to this school visit and I'm on the plane ride home and I'm calling other coaches and saying no. So I would just caution that, it might not be completely done deal just based on having the last visit.
And I think a good example of that is perhaps with like Jackson Dollar, right? The tight end who had visited Georgia, set a commitment date, and he commits today, I believe. You put an update on him on the board yesterday. Where are things with that situation right now?
So on that update, can I say I'm so proud of like the ISD community. Sometimes in the past, you put something out there. This was like a scuttlebutt that I'd been hearing scuttlebutt throughout from a source on the periphery, right? But it was like accurate scuttlebutt, nothing exciting, just continuous little tiny updates. And then one that was somewhat positive came yesterday. And then I checked with somebody else, and it was like a non-denial denial, right? So it was like, maybe, and it seemed optimistic. So I'm thinking, all right, do I put this? Because sometimes people take that little post and just run wild with it. Like, appropriate amount for my SD subscribers of like excitement, but like not getting too crazy, which I loved to see. I think we're all getting, used to this stuff. So basically what I would say is like, nobody had told me it was dead, but it was pretty damn close. And there was a point, might have been Tuesday, where Notre Dame seemed to throw their hands up and just say, we did all we can do. Like, it is what it is. We'll see, which is sometimes as close they get to saying we're out.
Yeah.
And then, I followed up with something. Hey, I heard this little, positive buzz, and that wasn't like, yes, this is all great, we're going to get them. But it was like a little bit better than, we did the best we can. So I put that up there, and Notre Dame fans basically just said, all right, like, this is, hopefully we get them, which is appropriate. Right now, I do not think Notre Dame's the favorite. If you put a gun to my head, I'd say he doesn't pick Notre Dame. But I wouldn't be like, wow, where did that come from if he did?
Right. Like, you did hear something. You know?
And it wasn't like, sometimes those things are like, that's BS. Forget it. That wasn't the response.
Right. And so I think this kind of happens a lot, actually, just in your world. And it's like, you don't know how to handle it. I will say, generally speaking, ISD customers are pretty good about like, okay, I'm giving you this information. It's borderline reportable, but I'm telling you because I know it, but I'm not making a prediction kind of thing. And I'm not trying to get everyone's hopes up. It just is what it is, Notre Dame is trending at tight end for Titus Hawk, who's another tight end that they're looking at, athletic guy, right? He's kind of in the same mold as Jackson Dollar skill wise. Jackson Dollar is clear in my opinion is clearly better. He's kind of like a special prospect. But Titus Hawk he is a good player. And I think the fact that you have Preston Freisel and Ian Premer in the last class, it's kind of like tight ends fine. And that's the other part of this too. Like, Mike and Jamie were having a debate about this when on Power Hour, when it looked like, they weren't going to get Jackson Dollar. And that was kind of like at the throw your hands up kind of portion of it. And my thing was like, look, missing out on Dollar in a vacuum is what it is. Right. And you don't want to miss out on an elite talent like that. At the same time, they did just land the top tight end in the class, like the literal year before. He hasn't even stepped foot on Notre Dame's campus yet. And you did get Preston Freisel, who we're very excited about. If you get someone like Titus Hawk, like, the tight end position is fine. You can recruit the tight end position. You just don't get the top guy every single year. And that's just the way it goes. But to me, if it was up to Matt, they wouldn't recruit tight ends at all anyway. So
they wouldn't even play them. Forget about recruiting.
I don't even want the spot, right? Like, do it. Like, they get 5 snaps a game. But I think people should be, if they get Titus Hawk, they should be excited about him because he is a good football player and he can add to the class. What do you have on Titus Hawk in that recruitment?
Yeah, so he's a kid that the Notre Dame offer has always been special to him. It was something that, he came up and visited it and ended up getting the offer and was just blown away. He did that thing where he didn't just bring his parents, he brought his grandparents and stuff back for another time. And then everyone knows he's a two-sport star in that he's an elite baseball player, but he also plays basketball. And like, he's the baseball player that doesn't just play baseball come March through like June, he's an elite level baseball player. So he's playing baseball all the time. Like MLB draft type guy. His dad's his baseball coach. So his schedule is just packed, like jam packed. Like, he doesn't have the opportunity that a lot of these kids have to just, all right, I'm going to skip track this weekend and go visit these schools. Yeah. So when he takes visits, it's intentional. And like, I don't think he's ever, he went to some football games in the fall, but like, anytime I've talked to him, he's always been like, I don't know when I'm going to visit these schools because my schedule's packed. I'm going to make it a point to try to get to these schools if I can. And the fact that Notre Dame has been that school a few times now is very, very interesting to me. I do think like baseball could be a factor here. Like, from what I was told, at least a couple months ago, he was kind of shooting up some prospect lists to the point where he could be a pretty legit draft pick, which could make things, interesting, an interesting decision for him. But lately, from other people, I was told that may be true, but like football is a priority for him, and they think he wants to play football. It's easy to say that now, regardless.
Right.
Like he wants to play football no matter what. But let's see where he gets picked. Baseball, and to be honest, I don't follow the baseball rankings like that, so I don't know if he's continued to move up or if he's plateaued or moved down or what. But Notre Dame is in a really good, strong spot with him right now, and I think that pending the baseball stuff, he's definitely a guy that could end up being the tight end in this class.
Is he a pitcher or is he like an outfielder?
I don't know. I don't. I think he's a pitcher, but I don't know. I know he's like played in the same program. I think his dad coached like the Holiday kids, right?
Oh, okay.
So you're around that level of baseball player. Like Jackson Holiday was just the number one pick like a couple years ago, and I think his little brother was the number one pick last year. Mm-hmm. So you're in that type of program. We're talking. I'm not saying he's gonna be number one pick in MLB draft. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's an elite level program where kids are coming from. And sometimes you get to that point. It's every family's different, but some of those dollars are hard to say no to.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the thing that is mitigated now with NIL. I hadn't really thought about that too deep, but that's a factor that NIL can really help. Like, all right, you're going to make the same year as you would if you go play in the minor league. So maybe that mitigates that.
There's kind of a sentiment on in the chat right now, and it's kind of always there. Like I kind of feel it myself of just take them all, pay everyone whatever you need. I think Notre Dame does operate within some kind of a budget. Maybe not from a bottom line, we only have X amount of dollars, but a player is going to be valued at what they're going to be valued. They're not just going to pay anyone whatever, right? Do you think that they make the decision? And this is kind of going back to like dollar and like, okay, do we pay a premium for Jackson Dollar, or do we make sure that we get Braden Parks and David Faleronu?
Yeah, all that the budget is fluid,
right?
But one thing operates the other. Like if you need more money, there's people that ask for more money. But you can't just keep going and asking for more and more and more money. Right. It won't work. And it's not you have to evaluate your entire roster construction. It's just like, professional sports now in that sense. Like you could love to add Jackson Dollar but maybe it's not worth, maybe what he's worth in demands is not the same as what he's worth to you, especially when it's like, if you're looking at that point, we need somebody else and we won't be able to get that other person. And just because that person's more valuable to us doesn't mean that Jackson Dollar's dollar value is not right. So, I think that they all work together.
Yeah. And I think we kind of saw that with the portal this year, where it's like they could have gone in on a running back and paid top dollar for whoever. But they got the D tackles instead, and the DNs. And I think it's like, you understand that, right? And this is kind of the same deal. I mean, the whole conversation happened during the draft, right? Where people love Jeremiah Love as a talent. And when I say people, I mean, draft nicks or whatever it might be. They love Jeremiah Love as a talent, but they're thinking from a roster construction standpoint, does it make sense to guarantee him all that money when you can go get someone else? I'm not debating him versus any other player, but
sure.
To me, if Notre Dame is breaking the bank for a position, get Parks and get Faleronu and go that way, and rather than the tight end, because you just got Ian Premer and you just got Freisel, and you can get Titus Hawk. Which first of all, like the names in this class about wonderful Champ Mons the fourth, Titus Hawk. I mean, these names are just the top notch. I mean, you can't turn your back on that sort of thing. You got to factor that in as well. Wide receiver.
As far as that, hold on real quick, just like the NIL, the thing, and it's funny you mentioned Jeremiah, because I was thinking as you were talking about how far Notre Dame has come in this NIL world. Like when it first started, it's comical to think the amounts that Notre Dame was offering kids in comparison. And I don't know if I've told this story on any ISD shows or not, but and I won't go through the whole thing now, but listening to Jeremiah's dad talk about all the money that they turned down.
Love, yeah.
And that fake tweet where they said Georgia tampered, which had none that wasn't said at all. But he did talk about all the money they turned down in the recruiting process. And it's funny because I had a pretty good insight into that whole recruitment. And that's the recruit, like I used to tell my friends, like how much Notre Dame has come. And like the idea that they got Jeremiah Love for what they got him for is insane. And it just brought all those things back. Listening to Jeremiah Love's dad tell those stories.
Yeah. I remember
like
when
insane.
I remember when they were recruiting him and they were going to land him. And I remember you were like, I can't believe this. He's doing this. Like it was to the point of almost irresponsible.
Honestly, God, if they offered any recruit, not just like the top recruit, what they gave Jeremiah Love, from what I'm told, it would be the end of the recruitment. Like they're like, oh, you guys aren't serious. We are in vastly different ballparks. Thanks. Nice to know you. We're going somewhere else.
It is very fortunate for Notre Dame that Love and Price are just kind of different cats when it comes to that, because they could have made some very good financial choices for them that did not include Notre Dame.
And look how it worked out. Jeremiah Love's guaranteed $50 million, and JD Price is a first-round draft pick.
I will say this. Jeremiah Love was correct. Like he did say at the time, he said, it will work out for me in the end. Like he did. And it 100% did. Like good foresight on him. And you know what? Like that just goes to show, like sometimes these high school guys, like they can figure it out and they can make the reasoned choice, and look, obviously we feel like it's super reasoned because we want him to end up at Notre Dame, but good job by him on that. The wide receiver position, people are fairly, concerned about it. Want to know what's going on there. And so where are things with that? I know that Julius Jones Jr., the trends are heading in Notre Dame. The wind is blowing towards South Bend on that one. Where are they at with him? And then we could talk about Jackson Coleman as well, who just visited.
So conflicting information, kind of in the same lane. I think everyone I've talked to agrees that Notre Dame was able to pull ahead of Oregon when he came up for the blue gold game last week. Everyone I've talked to, not everyone in the world, agrees with that. Some people down in Florida, they're telling me it's over. Like he's going to Notre Dame. Like the quote I put in Intel last week was the pick is in. Other people that are closer to the situation push back on that strongly. They say that's not the case. At least he hasn't told Notre Dame that. And I tend to lean more towards that way, considering he's still, as far as I know, going to take some official visits. Anything can change on an official visit. And these schools, other schools like Oregon, they're not hosting guys for official visits that that they think they have no shot at. But regardless, things are trending very well there. Obviously, getting Zayden Gamble, his teammate down at St. Thomas Aquinas, doesn't hurt. I don't think that you're going to get a much stronger tie to Notre Dame than Julius Jones Jr.'s dad. But it doesn't hurt to have a good friend and teammate going there as well. And I'm sure Zayden's in his ear. Although I don't know too much how much they're in their ear. I think a lot of these guys know, like, man, that was a stressful experience I went through. Everyone was bugging me. I ain't going to do the same thing to my boy. But they're probably close enough, from what I'm told, that there's certainly some discussions about the idea of playing together. So right now, I'd feel comfortable labeling Notre Dame as a team to beat for Julius Jones Jr.
Would be good. You got that slot type of skill set. It's fast, obviously, like his dad. I don't know how much Zayden Gamble needs to like be in the ear of him. It's kind of one of those things. Like, look, I committed, right? Like, I like Notre Dame. I'm going to Notre Dame. Your dad went there. Maybe you should too, kind of thing. How much of a hard sell does it once you commit? If you want, I think it's more so if it's like uncommitted and you're going and they're both kind of going through it at that point and they're kind of feeling each other out. Once you commit to the school, it's like, obviously I like it. I'm committed there.
Yeah. For me, it's more the idea of going somewhere with my boy. Right. Like, and like, I know, like I was in high school, like my high school friends are still my closest friends to this day. And if I were to go through this process and one of them was going to somewhere I really liked, it would definitely like, and me, today I'm immature. Forget about when I was 17. Me at 17 years old, that would be like all right, now let's, and you're just talking about it and imagining things and daydreaming stuff and like, oh, that's cool. That would be cool. So that's the impact, I think. Not so much of this guy like this. You should go to Notre Dame for 4-40 and all that stuff.
Yeah. Notre Dame's made a move with Jackson Coleman, wide receiver out of Valor Christian in Colorado. And it's 6'4", 200-ish. He's got a 10.6 to his name, so that's good. You got the top-end speed there. Where are things with him and the recruitment to Notre Dame?
I think they're good. I think he really likes Mike Brown. Mike Brown's kind of the one that, really went out and found him, evaluated him, and pushed him on Notre Dame and said, this is a guy we got to go get. So I think that gives him a lot of credibility with Jackson. They're really pushing Jackson, like you talked about, his size and speed, as somebody they don't have right now on the roster, or at least they need moving forward. So he likes it. The one thing, and I've only talked to Jackson a few times because he's a relatively new prospect. Hard for me to get a feel for him in terms of like his personality. Basically, he liked it. He said Notre Dame's right there among his top groups. But then I asked him about, all right, what's next? Are you coming back from an official? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, you got officials in Northwestern Oregon, scheduled. And he's like, well, I don't know about those either. Like, it depends on when I commit. So it's like, okay, if he's like a kid that's like, joined Aiden O'Neill and those guys and says, I'm going to commit, I don't need to take official visits, then that makes a lot of sense for Notre Dame. But if he's a kid that's like really doesn't know if he's coming back to Notre Dame for an official visit and might go to other schools, then that's not so good for Notre Dame. I tend to imagine it's the former. I also think like opposite of guys like Fakatu and Faleronu, I think Coleman's probably someone that keeps things a little bit closer to the vest and doesn't go out there and say, I loved it, that's my new leader. Which, is probably the way I would play it as well. So I think Notre Dame is right there among the favorites based on what he told me. I'd like to see either like an announcement coming up or like confirmation of official visits in order for me to feel really, really good about that opinion.
Yeah. Where do you think Notre Dame is with their wide receiver board right now, outside of those two prospects?
I still think they get Cade Cooper. Right. I went down to New Jersey for the Under Armour Regional this past weekend. He was on the list. I was really hoping to see him. He didn't make it up there. People very close to him basically tell me that's a done deal. Again, people on the other side, they don't agree with that. At least he hasn't told Notre Dame that. But, it sounds like people close to him are like, it's going to take something crazy for this kid not to end up at Notre Dame. So I think they're in a good spot there. Beyond those three, it's really like, I don't know. Do you need more than that? Probably not. And we're not saying you're definitely going to get all three of those guys either. So, I know Asani Gales came up for a visit recently. He's an IMG kid. I put an intel a couple weeks ago. Like, not that anyone's typical, right? I don't like to say these kids are all the same, but like not your typical IMG kid from what people would imagine. His brother played football at Harvard. Parents are big-time academic people in California. So obviously they sent one kid to Florida for high school, another kid to Massachusetts, Cambridge, Massachusetts for college. Location isn't the most important thing. It seems like getting an education and being prepared professionally and academically is probably the most important thing. I think Notre Dame can offer that. But are they his leader right now? No. You look at other guys like Matthew Gregory, Miles McAfee, Trent Yancey, guys that have visited recently. Notre Dame definitely has a shot. They wouldn't have came up if, they didn't, but are they going to get those guys? I couldn't say that.
It feels like it's they got to land like Cooper. If they land Cooper and they land Jones, and I think they probably like to close on Coleman pretty quickly. I think they would be done.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because you get those three. Yeah, because you get those three, and then because you have to look at the wide receiver class that just came in. I mean, you got three guys in Finley, Frazier, and Fitzgerald
Robinson.
And Robinson, but I'm talking about those three guys have like really impressed in the spring. So they look like hits, right? Like Robinson was hurt,
yeah,
and Dylan Faison's playing lacrosse, right? Mm-hmm. But like you had five, and you had three, but you didn't have any that were like a little bit with Fitzgerald, but you didn't have the Cade Cooper, Jackson Coleman kind of body type,
sure,
right? And you did get someone similar to Julius Jones Jr., but you kind of always have someone of that kind of skill set who could just run and can be in the slot. Like if you get those three plus, that's eight.
Quincy Porter too in the program now.
You got Quincy Porter, you have Mylan Graham, so that makes 8 from the recruiting, the 2 recruiting classes, 4 and 4, the competing skill sets. I think they would be okay, but you do have to land them, And I think with K Cooper, like you're talking about, everyone, like people close to him say it's a done deal or whatever. The fact is that it isn't a done deal, right? Because he hasn't committed, and not only that, like he doesn't have a date. So his recruitment to me, just on the outside, feels like it's kind of stalled right now. Like where is it going? Where are things trending there? Like what's next?
I think he's got official visits coming up, but he's always kind of had them. And I think he has a really good feel. Like I think the reason things have seemed to stall from the outside is because there's not much else to say. Right? Yeah. Notre Dame is his leader. That's where that's where people close to him think he's going to go. He's going to take these official visits first and then make his decision. We reported that a month ago. So after that, if what's the story today? I think it's exactly the same. I think Notre Dame's his leader. He's going to take these official visits, make a decision after that. Unless something crazy happens on these official visits, Notre Dame's going to be the favorite. So I think that's the reason why it seems to have stalled from a outside point of view. I just think it is what it is, and I think Notre Dame's in a very, very strong position. I haven't heard. While people have told me, no, it's not a done deal yet, we're still recruiting them, and I know they are, I haven't heard anyone push back on the idea that they're the overwhelming favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a relationship, right? Like things they hit landmarks.
Yep.
And I feel like he's hit all the landmarks, and it's like, okay, commitment. And we haven't gotten to that last part yet.
Yeah, but I follow it by what kids say, right? So if I don't care, if you say I'm definitely taking official visits, no matter what, I'm going to take 3 or 4 of them. I'm committed to that part of the process. And as long as you stay to that, I'm not concerned, oh, well, he's going to take an official visit. Yeah, that's what he said the whole time. He's going to take an official visit. It's the kid that Justin Scott, right? Dante Moore.
Yeah.
Where it's not yet. He's K Cooper's following the plan that he laid out for me months ago.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. So, anything else on any other position before we let you go?
I feel like I dumped intel on hit and hustle. Let me see if I got anything else good from intel from this week. I don't know.
Yeah. Anything on online? I mean, I feel like the defensive secondary is kind of sorted itself out. They've got Hassan and Alston have both reaffirmed they're kind of shutting down their recruitments at corner, so that's really good. They just got Zayden Gamble, they got John Ge. To me, it's like Gavin Williams. Is there anyone else on the list who?
Yeah, I think that's the one that's what I was going to say. That's the other note that I have for intel is Gavin Williams. Just a quiet recruitment, and I think it's there's sneaky optimism. Would almost call it from Notre Dame. It's whispers about him, and I think that he's a kid that goes quiet from time to time, so he can get lost in the shuffle. But every time you talk to him, it's he just perks up when you talk about Notre Dame. There's some kids that they do that when you talk to them about a certain school, it sparks something, and that's the way Gavin Williams has always been with Notre Dame. I think there's a quiet optimism, but I don't. I mean, Greg, that's your spot, safety. What do you think they need? Do you think they need one more?
Need? No.
Yeah.
They don't need it, right? Because because again, you go back to the previous class. First of all, you have Ethan Long sitting there, who is did he play 4 last year? Did he take his so. Okay, so he has 4 years eligibility. You have Joey O'Brien sitting there. And so you have John Ge, who they want to play safety. They have Zayden Gamble, who they want to play safety. They have guys on campus already. You have Nick Reddish, who can play safety. They have their safety group. Plus you have Ethan Long, who's underclassman. He has lots of years eligibility there. You have those guys. Gavin Williams, to me, is hey, this guy's awesome. We want him in our program. From a number standpoint, you don't need him, right? Yep. So there's that situation. To me, his recruitment is about talent. If they don't land him, it's somewhat similar to Jackson Dollar in the sense that man, you want that kid in your program. But if they don't land him, Notre Dame's going to be fine at safety. And I mean, I
Yep.
think the reason that someone like Gavin Williams with 4 already in the class is even looking at Notre Dame is because look, they have 4 NFL caliber players in their secondary right now, and not just caliber players, but like first round caliber players.
Yeah, some of the best.
Yeah, and Xavier Watts is killing it, and Kyle Hamilton's killing it, right? And now Breontae Johnson's killing it. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're just gonna go. It's kind of like Ohio State wide receiver. At some point, you just say, okay, like I'm gonna go to Notre Dame, and I'm gonna ball out, and I'm gonna be a first round pick.
Yep,
and that's just it.
Let me give you this, and it can go to a larger discussion. Something we were talking about right before the show started. What if Phoenix Evans decided to reclass to 27?
I mean, just go for it.
Yeah, I'm told they would.
I mean, it's just like because you just stack it. You just stack guys on guys. I mean, it is one of those weird classes where Champ Mons is a is a reclass. Jackson Vaughn is a reclass. Fakatu is a reclass, right? Which is weird because I feel like Notre Dame hasn't dipped their toes into that at all. And then Teddy Gerard reclassifies, and then now it's like some of the biggest pieces of their class are reclasses. But I mean, it's like out here that is that whole scene with a gap year after 8th grade where they go to like some prep school and then they go like that is so common out here. It's like almost standard operating procedure almost if you're like a great player. And
we have, out here, especially in, I don't want to, at least years ago, New Jersey. I mean, you got kids starting school late and then doing that, right? That's normal. Yeah. Start kindergarten late I'm talking about from the kindergarten. But I think, and it is odd, right? And I talk about this a lot in Intel tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be odd moving forward, right? And I was talking to someone, a high school coach, about it recently this week, and it's very similar to why guys leave college to go to the NBA, the elite guys. You want to start that clock to start making money, right? So and I know the numbers out there got to be bonkers because I know relatively, lower prospects being offered relatively large sums of money to move up. So if someone's going to offer my kid $1 million or damn near $1 million to go to college a year early, and now we can just make an extra $1 million instead of not getting paid. That's something we're going to look at, right? And I know I've said this before, but like sometimes I think we still have this idea of this, negative connotation with those kind of things. But imagine your kid, imagine being in that position. Doesn't mean you're selling them to the highest bidder, but it's like this is real money for your child, your family, and the other, or they can potentially get hurt playing a meaningless high school game. I think this is a trend you're going to see more and more and more moving forward.
It's money you can make today.
Yeah.
Versus like I wait, like you said, anything can happen, but you can make it now. Yeah, 100%.
And it's not like you're trading, right? It's not like, well, if you don't make it now, you'll make it eventually. Yeah, you'll make it eventually. But there's always gonna be that 1 year at the end of your career. It's not like you're shorting yourself a year. You're making an extra $1 million or whatever it is in your entire career because you're still going to play just as long.
Right. And the other part is like they're already of age. That's the point. They've been held back. Like they're not playing up in the sense that like, oh, he's 16 going.
Yes.
Like that's not happening. They're already of age. They were held back.
Unless you're Cooper Flag.
Unless you're Cooper Flag. But the age didn't matter because he was physically, physically.
Best high school basketball player I've ever seen in person.
Okay. Well, he's doing well in the NBA. I think he was the NBA Rookie of the Year, right?
Probably. The best thing about Cooper Flag is watch him in person, how hard he plays. He plays so hard.
Yeah.
I think that's his best trait. He was in a full sweat 3 minutes into the game.
That's what you want, especially at someone at the high school level. It really trends up when you go on to the professionals. All right, we can end it there. Christian, thank you for coming on. Great intel, great episode. Like I said, the spring has ended for Notre Dame. The football team is off. Christian is ramping up. We've got official visit season coming up. We've got commitments coming up tomorrow from Champ Mons and from Aiden O'Neill. We've got David Faleronu on the 15th. We'll see if anything happens before that. A lot is happening. Head over to irishsportsdaily.com for Christian's updates, Matt's updates. Always a ton of intel from those guys. Christian's got intel coming out tomorrow. So
might not have to read it if you're a viewer.
Might have to read it. We covered everything on this show. But all right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, hit that like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll be back next week with more Hit and Hustle and Power Hour. Have a good weekend, everyone. Keep hitting and hustling.